when we put in visual, auditory, and tactile elements, that is ADHD brain gold. Today we're going to peel back the layers and understand why and how ADHD brains learn differently, and more importantly, what we can do to help. Make sure you grab your pencil, your paper, and let's dig in. Hello and welcome back to the Mindful Toolbox podcast. I'm Sarah Lynn. If you're a returning listener, you're officially one of our Toolbox regulars. A big round of applause for you. Thank you so much, friend, for joining us again. But if this is your first time, come on in, take a seat, grab a drink, get comfortable, because you've landed in a space where brains of all kinds are celebrated and where learning works best when it's structured, safe, and a little bit playful. This is episode 7, but the second episode that focuses on learning. Today we are diving into one of the most requested topics. How do we support children with ADHD in their learning journey? If you haven't already, I recommend jumping back to episode 6, where we focused on how memory works. Because today's conversation is going to build on that, but we're going to zoom in on specific tools tailored for neurodiverse learners. So let's jump in. Smells good. I'm really loving this ritual. A coffee and a chat, a conversation with you, the wonderful community that keeps encouraging us to explore neurodiversity and mental health for children. I absolutely love it. One of the most common things that I hear from parents is they're so bright, but it's like the information just won't stick. Or another way that we hear this is they practice, they rehearse, they revise so much, and as soon as they get to their exam, poof, it's gone. Let's go through a little bit of what we know from episode 6. Learning requires 3 main parts. Can you recall what they were? I know it was 2 weeks ago that we had the episode. Learning requires encoding, storage, and retrieval. But ADHD affects each step in very specific ways. So what episode 6 taught us is that the focus with encoding is the amount of effort that it takes to revise or learn something. Active effort is key here. So we do things like chunking and mnemonics to help us. The ADHD brain, though, the working memory means encoding must be engaging and brief. The second step is storage. We know that sleep and repetition matter because it's not in the action of revision that we store, it's later. But distracted brains may not store unless they are emotionally charged, so there's joy, or it's multisensory. And the third is retrieval. So we know that recall improves this, spaced repetition, active practice, like we've talked about. However, retrieval is blocked by stress, time blindness, or a lack of structure. So what can we do then to support this? If there's an issue or a roadblock at each of those 3 encoding processes, what can we do? Well, I think the easiest way to do this is to walk you through a scenario of one of the students that we were working with. So his name is Leo. We'll call him Leo anyway. He was a year 6 student who came to us for SATs exam support, so that year 6 exam. He was the classic idea machine movement master to the max, absolutely to the max. When we first met, his work stamina lasted for, 10 minutes if we were lucky. And then he would start with the redirecting or the shutting down. With the exam approaching, we knew that something needed to change because what we were trying to do, all of our traditional encoding methods that we've spoke about in episode 6, they weren't really working for him. So what we had to do was change things up. We focused on timers, but in a fun way. He loved to gamify things. And then we looked at movement breaks. So we built in a timer that created a focused, hyper-focused state, then allowed him to have an indication of when he could relax, when he could chat, And we incorporated moving breaks. So literally standing up out of our seat, doing jumping jacks, dancing. At some point, we were outside throwing a ball in the good weather. We did all of this, and over a couple of weeks, Leo, his working stamina, if that's what we want to call it, it increased to 20 minutes. And I know you're thinking that's not really a big deal. It's only 20 minutes of focused time, but that's 150% increase. That 20 minutes of focused, concentrated work is incredible for not only a brain that has a lot of movement and ideas swirling around, but even for a neurotypical brain. With a little bit of tweaking, there's going to be a way that we can tap into your child's superpower and figure out what exactly their brain requires to thrive in a learning environment. That's good. Okay, so I want to unpick the brain behind the behaviors. Like, I want us to understand fully what the ADHD brain, like how it's different, how it's wired differently. So let's get a real quick brain-based breakdown. If you don't know me yet, I love a little bit of alliteration. So brain-based breakdown. We have ADHD, right? That's the term that we're looking at. We have three things that it needs to focus on. Attention regulation. So it's not about the inability to pay attention. It's about inconsistent regulation of attention. What does that mean? Kids with ADHD often hyper-focus on things they enjoy and struggle with things that don't light them up. They can't just get on with it just because they have to do it. There needs to be some kind of buy-in. Otherwise, their brain literally will not allow them to process and engage. The second thing is working memory. So these are all sweeping statements, but many children, many people with ADHD have limited working memory capacity. That means that juggling multi-step instructions or word problems, or holding on to a thought while transitioning or while someone else is talking is incredibly challenging. It's incredibly challenging. And if you think about how the school system is set up and how exams are set up, everything is multi-step, right? The third thing that the ADHD brain requires a little bit of extra support for is executive functioning. Things like time management, emotional regulation, impulse control, all of which can be like a roller coaster for our ADHD learners. You know, they could be super focused on something, and then there's impulsivity that takes over and moves them into another direction, even if they didn't want to. And the key thing here for us as adults and carers and educators and parents to know, but equally important for our children to know, is that these are not character flaws. And the good thing is that there are strategies, real, grounded in evidence, grounded in research-based evidence strategies. So let's dig into that. Pull out your notebook. We are diving into the Mindful Toolbox, strategies that work for our ADHD brains. We have a couple. The first is to focus on sprints. Yes, focus sprints is a thing, and our dopamine-loving ADHD brains love it. As we said last time, long revision blocks, they're out. No longer do we want a 2-hour revision block, especially an ADHD brain. They need urgency and time constraint. Okay, so try this. Set a timer for 7 to 10 minutes. Okay, choose one micro task. Define 5 key words, do 3 maths problems, read 2 pages, and blurt out what you remember. Remember, active recall. Blurt out what you remember. Then, when the timer goes off, take a short, active break. Whatever your child needs to do, are they a verbal volcano? Let them chat it out. Are they a movement master? Have them run to go grab some water. Whatever suits them, really incorporate that there. Then repeat it. Here's a bonus. These short sprints are the perfect opportunities for spaced repetition. You know, we are going to revisit that same content 24 hours later to encode it into long-term storage, right? You went through the retrieval, You went through the learning, then there's the storage. Okay, number 2, the second thing that I want to share with you especially for our ADHD brains, is dual coding. So something that's multisensory. We looked at this in episode 6. Basically, it's pairing multi ways to embed input, so visuals and words. Now we can also layer in things like touch and sound and movement. When we do something like this, we bring in all of these different methodologies of the brain physically feeling the experience. That is our ADHD gold. So what can we do? Get them to do a voice note. Encourage them to draw diagrams while listening to the audio of a lesson. Build formulas with magnetic letters or blocks, right? You have a student, year 9, year 10, they're getting ready for big exams, and they're doing algebra. Don't just use a whiteboard. Don't just use a pencil and paper. Use your fridge and a little bit of magnets. Having that tactile approach is going to stick in that brain. How can we turn concepts into skits or voice notes or say them in a silly accent, right? I told you in episode 6 that one of the ways that I still remember the actual word for DNA is because we attached it to rhyme. DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's the repetition, it's the rhyme, it's the rhythm. That's what allows it to stick in my brain. 2 decades later? We need to build excitement and joy and urgency for our students. Because when we boost that emotional connection to what they're learning, that's when they're able to start buying into the content, even if it's not their favorite content. What you're asking them to do and how you're asking them to do it is going to pull them in enough. And I told you that these skills are based in researched evidence, and I wasn't exaggerating. So studies from Neurolaunch and the ADHD Center show that combining auditory, visual, and tactile elements enhances retention and enjoyment. Literally, it enhances the emotional response. So next time they need to revise history, try drawing comic strips, making audio explainer recordings, or using AI to create different characters that play out different roles to explain a process. Or if they're going through Shakespeare, read the comic book, act out the parts. The third thing to focus on to support our neurodivergent brains is to bring in structure and predictable routines. I know, a little contradictory, but it works because structure supports the memory. Here's the key. It has to be flexible enough for an ADHD mind. Sarah Lynn, how can it be structured and flexible? That makes no sense. It does. One of the ways we can do it is through creating timetables with emojis. If they're feeling super happy, they go through the super difficult. If they're feeling a little bit less energetic, a little bit flat, maybe they do a bit of retrieval work. Okay? We build in color-coded timetables together that allows them to see the words and the color. We can also anchor studying to actual routines. So if they learned 5 words when they were doing their blurt, pop it on the mirror. So that way when they're brushing the teeth, it's on the mirror. Maybe when you're driving them to school, they look at timetable practices. And when you're driving them home from school, they read 2 pages of their book and then summarize it for you. There's different ways that we can build it into our routine. And the thing is, these small routines, they're going to reduce decision fatigue. That will make more room for memory, and retrieval then becomes a lot easier. And I guess here's a pro tip. The more that you keep things consistent, the more your child will be able to feel safe in the learning environment. But the way that we can offer that flexibility is to provide them choice when they sit down. So how do they want to do their active recall? That will give them the buy-in. Number 4, the fourth tip to help our ADHD brains thrive with learning is, environmental tweaks that are going to actually honor the brain. right? So ADHD, as we've mentioned earlier, is not just an attention challenge. It's an attention regulation challenge. It's how they're not being pulled by their impulsivity. So instead of battling against the brain, adjust the surroundings. Try things like a wobble cushion. It's like this, it's about yay high, and it's kind of cone-like, and they literally sit and wobble on it. Another thing is a standing desk. How many of my students love being at the standing desk? It makes them feel empowered and strong. You can use calm music. I personally use an ADHD hyperfocus Spotify playlist, and it has unlocked some hyperfocus, which is great. Or noise canceling headphones if they really need to zone in. You can create something like Sarah Lynn's study den, a space that's for me to go that suits my learning needs, where my specific pen is there, where all of my beautiful notebooks and stationery live. As we discussed in episode 6, memory retrieval is blocked by stress. So calm, tailored workspace that supports the brain is going to help improve the memory in all 3 stages. Okay, number 5 is exciting. This one is how we can gamify review tasks, specifically for active recall. So instead of rereading or highlighting, we've already decided that doesn't work. We need to bring these concepts to life. Try oh my goodness, the Kahoot quizzes. Those are so much fun. Try flashcard battles, parent versus child. How fun is it for your child to know, and let's be honest, to know that they know more than you in a specific subject, right? You can do draw it from memory challenges. I love this one for novel and quote revision. If we're doing Macbeth, can they draw out a scene with as much detail, including words, as possible? They can do things like teaching a sibling or a pet or a stuffed animal, something that they've learned, being in the position of teaching. We've mentioned this in episode 6. It helps us to clarify what we actually understand and allows room for people to engage and question it. Things that are playful help. It embeds active recall, it improves retrieval practice, and it's great for self-checking. All of which were highlighted as top skills to improve learning in episode 6. So I know I've shared with you 5 different learning strategies that we can embed to support how memory and learning works, but specifically through the lens of an ADHD brain. I know these are going to be really helpful for you, and I want you to know this. By going through this process and helping your child figure out what does work for their brain, you are building so much more than academic skills. You're building trust in themselves. You're helping them to reframe the narrative that they might have that their brain is wrong or at a disadvantage. It's not. So tonight, instead of trying another worksheet, try this instead. Let your child lead a 5-minute teach me moment, right? Especially if you're sitting down and there's homework battles, specifically over math, because you and I were taught a different way than what they're being taught now. Instead of it being, well, this is how I was taught, so this is how I know how to teach you, give them the opportunity to teach you. Or perhaps let them choose the revision topic, but you choose the method. So the revision topic is the water cycle, and they have to do it in an interpretive dance. Make it fun, make it goofy, and keep it short and sweet. Let them write something that they've learned today on a sticky note and pop it up on the bathroom mirror. And maybe have them do that, once a week. And at the end of term, wow, 13 new things that you've learned. And at the end of the year, 4 times as much as that. Oh my goodness. At the end of the day, we want our children to know and feel confident that it's okay that their brain learns differently. Next week in episode 8, I'm so excited because we're going to be diving even further into the memory hacks that make learning stick. Absolutely stick. Just like in all of our lessons, let's do a quick recap of the tools that you found in the toolbox today. First, short bursts for the win. No more 2-hour long study sessions. We want 7-minute sprints plus a break, and that will build momentum and therefore build the memory. 2, senses are memory anchors. Okay, so multisensory input turns passive revision into long-term learning. And you know this because how many times have you remembered a conversation that you had with someone while you were out on a walk and you retraced your steps? It's there. The third is all about routine. Structure makes the brain feel safe. The fourth is that environment matters. We need a brain-friendly space that reduces stress and supports focus for your child's ADHD superpower. And the fifth is make it playful. Children that interact with play while they're learning are so much more likely to last. Whew, and that is it for episode 7 of the Mindful Toolbox podcast. If this resonated with you, send it to a parent who's navigating ADHD or share one tip that worked on social media and tag us at the Mindful Toolbox _podcast. And while you're at it, don't forget to put a notification in your calendar to join me here in 2 weeks' time, where we will be diving into memory and the learning hacks that will make it stick. Until then, friends, keep showing up. You're doing so much better than you think.